Alright, good morning. This is round 2 of my hill climb test for the Segway Ninebot Max G2 after the 1.4.8 firmware update. So we're going to see if we can get similar performance as we did the first time I did this test. So we'll take a look. Now, I've seen a lot of mention online after the 1.4.8 firmware update that people have experienced slower acceleration, lower top speed, and reduced hill climb performance. I will say that over the last 50 or so miles after the firmware update, I have noticed that acceleration is slower, although it is a lot smoother than it was before. I can still hit the 22 mile an hour top speed. And today we'll be doing the test in sport mode, but I do have the top speed capped at 20 miles an hour, which is exactly the same as the first time around when I did this test. Now we are going back uphill, and we are at 20.1 miles an hour according to the app, which is the same reading that we see on the scooter. And going uphill, no problem at all whatsoever right now. I would say that the performance is similar to what I experienced last time, but we'll definitely see as we go along. I think last time around I did 10 and a half miles, so we'll do something similar this time around. And we're approaching the steeper part of the incline right now, so we'll see how this scooter does. I also want to call out that one thing I have noticed after the firmware update is that the temperature increase of the scooter is a lot more gradual, whereas before I would hit those high-end temperatures pretty quickly, over 43 degrees Celsius. That 1.4.8 firmware update seemed to be geared at, reducing the temperature of the controller on the scooter, because people have been experiencing overheating issues. I personally have never experienced any overheating situation. Even driving out here in the Arizona desert, sometimes in temperatures, upwards of 115, 116 degrees Fahrenheit. So overall, I've been pretty impressed with the scooter's ability to handle kind of inclement conditions and not run into any issues. But that's just my experience. It's my understanding that some people over 200 pounds, for example, are more prone to experiencing overheating issues. And we are still able to maintain 19 to 20 miles an hour going up the steeper part of this hill. And which, if I remember correctly, and we'll review the footage, maybe we'll do some side-by-side. It's about the same as it was last time around. So far, no noticeable difference on my end. We are currently at 5.4 miles into this ride. Scooter temperature is 33 degrees Celsius. All right, now we are going on the downside of the hill, 20 miles an hour. Now, many of you already probably know this, but this scooter's suspension is absolutely fantastic. Makes riding this an absolute joy. All the bumps, uneven parts of the road, you just go right over it with this, no problem at all whatsoever. And for all of you that are wondering, I do have regen mode set to weak. That's another change that came with the 1.4.8 update. We used to have weak, medium, and strong as the regenerative brake options. It's now off, weak, and strong. So they've eliminated medium, but have given the ability to turn off regenerative braking. Okay, so we are creeping up above the maximum speed that I have set at 20 miles an hour. We are at almost 24. Let me release the throttle, see if the regen brake kicks in. It does, and no issues at all whatsoever. So I'm unable to replicate what I experienced the first time around when I was going about 24 and a half miles an hour. When I released the throttle, I got really aggressive engagement of the regenerative brake, so much so to the point where it kind of startled me, but I was able to maintain control. So it looks like that's not an issue anymore, at least during this test. This decline is becoming more gradual now, and it's going to level off here momentarily, and then we'll be back on the upswing again. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn around here, and we're going to head back uphill. And here we go, heading right back up again. All right, back up the hill. We are currently at 7.5 miles into this trip. Scooter temperature is 35 degrees Celsius, and I'm at about 19 miles an hour going up this hill right now. So far, no issues at all. The performance is very comparable to when I first did this hill climb test a couple months back. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, I recently picked up an e-bike, Electric XP 3.0, to test out and see how it rides compared to this Segway Ninebot Max G2. Ultimately want to get at, what's a better commuter, what's a better riding experience, and I've got about 50 miles on that bike, and I'm compiling my thoughts, so absolutely stay tuned for some future videos where I go over that. Alright, here's another uphill stretch, and of course we're maintaining over 20 miles an hour. Now, I recently posted a 250-mile review video of the Segway Ninebot Max G2, and what my experience has been riding that over 250 miles. I go over my top 5 pros and cons of the scooter over that time. And in that video, I did test this scooter in a really steep parking garage. I think it had a grade of somewhere between 18 and 20%. And this scooter did fabulous, even at 34% battery remaining. So overall, I'm impressed with the performance. We'll see how we do by the end of this test, but so far it's looking good. All right, so we just reached the top end point of this hill climb, and we're going back down again. And we are 9 miles into this ride. Scooter temperature is 38 degrees Celsius. We're maintaining 20 miles per hour and about 33 minutes into the ride. All right, we have eclipsed the distance that we traveled on the last test, and we were able to do it at a significantly lower scooter temperature. It is only 38 degrees Celsius, and I believe last time around, and I'll spot check this, but we were somewhere between 40 and 43 degrees Celsius. We've traveled a little bit further, and the temperature is noticeably lower. I'd imagine this ride will be 2 or 3 miles longer than the first time around, so we'll see how we end up. All right, and we are slowly creeping back into the steepest part of this hill climb. And we are still able to maintain 20 miles an hour, which, to remind you, is the maximum speed I have this set at here in sport mode. All right, this is officially the steepest part of the hill. We are at 19 miles an hour with 57% remaining. Scooter temperature is at 40 degrees Celsius, and we're about 41 minutes into this ride. We are at 14 miles, 41 degrees Celsius on the scooter. We've been riding for about 50 minutes. It's 50 minutes. We've gone quite a ways. All right, I will officially say that this was a successful hill climb test of the Master Firmware version 1.4.8. No difference at all whatsoever in hill climb performance before and after the update. I am still able to hit my top speeds, no issue, hitting 20 miles an hour, which is what I have this set to in sport mode. Acceleration, like I mentioned before, is slower, but the acceleration curve is smoother. So if acceleration was something that you were really excited about prior to the update, you're probably not going to be as excited after the update, because it is slower. It does take 2 to 3 seconds longer to get to maximum speed, but overall the performance of this scooter is fantastic. So absolutely consider this a successful test.